Hello and welcome to Public Eye, where community meets politics. I'm your host, Edwin Baker. West Yorkshire Police Kirklees Division launched the Police Race Action Plan in November 2023. The Police Race Action Plan is a strategic initiative aimed at addressing and combating racial disparities within policing practices and fostering trust between law enforcement agencies in African descent communities and other diverse communities. Recognizing the well-documented historical context of racial inequalities and practices within the police force, this comprehensive framework seeks to promote fairness, accountability, and transparency in policing. The plan emphasizes the importance of community engagement, training, and education to enhance cultural competence amongst police officers, ensuring a more responsive and equitable approach to law enforcement. By setting clear objectives and measurable outcomes, the Police Race Action Plan strives to dismantle institutional discrimination and systemic biases, improve relationships with marginalized communities, and uphold the principles of justice and equality. Through collaborative efforts with community stakeholders, the plan aims to create a safer environment for all citizens, reinforcing the commitment of police forces to serve with integrity and respect for every individual, regardless of their race or background. Today in our studio, we're happy to have Mark Morris. Mark is a dedicated community advocate and lifelong resident of Brackenhall and currently lives in Fartown, Huddersfield. With over 34 years of experience at Kirklees Council, he has become a passionate supporter of local issues and young people in disadvantaged areas. Mark's involvement in the trade union has equipped him with the skills to navigate political landscapes and also advocate for others. Notably, he successfully campaigned for apprentices to receive the minimum wage and contributed to the annual flying of the Windrush flag above Huddersfield Town Hall. Recently, Mark completed a degree at the age of 51 and is committed to creating a better community for future generations, particularly for his two young nephews. Mark understands the impact of racism and continues to work towards fostering better relationships between the police and the black community, particularly in his role as chair of the West Yorkshire Police Scrutiny Group, while he strives to make his hometown a welcoming and inclusive place for all. Welcome, Mark.
Hello.
Great to have you here.
It's nice to be here.
Can you just give our viewers some insight into the role that you have as the Independent Scrutiny and Advisory Group Chair?
Yeah, so as you've mentioned, the Scrutiny Group is something I was surprised to be involved in. It's not something I'd normally have got involved in, but we can all remember back to those lockdown periods during 2020. The first time we saw the images of George Floyd being murdered on TV screens, it became a massive topic for a group of people that I was meeting with every week online. We started talking about ways we could influence West Yorkshire Police to make sure that the things that we could see that were happening on our TV screens couldn't be repeated in Huddersfield or West Yorkshire. As independent people, we'll scrutinise the work that the police do, so that can include observing the body-worn videos of stop and search incidents that have happened. It can be reviewing taser incidents when people have been tasered and giving the police an honest opinion as to how it looks from a non-police perspective, just seeing how they talk to people, whether the levels of civility that all police officers should be able to offer to everybody, regardless of background, whether those have been met in our view. So that's the scrutiny side of it. And we also advise them when it comes to policy matters. So some of the changes that we've asked them to make, I'm happy to say they have listened to us. So some of the training that officers receive, as well as internal policy, that they've rolled out has been adopted. So it's not just me. There is a good number of people who are regular attendees to the meetings, and it is an open forum, so anybody can attend. But we've leaned into trying to make sure there's a good representation of black men and women and of all age groups attending.
Okay. Well, you've touched upon the rollout of initiatives or activities that the police force have been engaged in as a result of the launching of the Police Race Action Plan.
Yeah.
How are the police, in particular, evaluating the effectiveness of some of these initiatives or the rollout of the plan across West Yorkshire, both within the police force and within the community as well?
Yeah. Well, it's a good question, because every one of the 43 police forces, and not including the British Transport Police, the Northern Irish Police and the Scottish Police, are looking at it very differently. So you've got every force in the country adopting the National Race Police Action Plan in different ways. But what I like about what West Yorkshire have done is they've talked to the black community. They've made every effort to try and get their version of the Race Action Plan to represent what the black community would like to see. And when we say black community, there's lots of different nations, lots of different cultures within that black community of West Yorkshire and Huddersfield. But I like to think that I've given my views as to what I've experienced when it's come to police officers, what I think they've done wrong, for starters, and what I think they've done right. So the Race Action Plan in itself has got 4 main work stream areas. 2 are definitely about communities. So you've got the underprotected work stream, which makes sure that victims of crime who are also black don't get a lesser level of service from the police. So if you're black and you phone 999, you should get the same level of service as you would do if you were from a different background. I know for a fact that doesn't always happen and hasn't always happened, but the awareness of the fact that that's been a problem is one good reason why that Race Action Plan was necessary. Similarly, we've been over-policed. My own life experiences had officers stop me. No surprise to most people. You'll hear most people from black backgrounds talk about their experiences being stopped by police officers. Mine was no different. Completely innocent, got stopped by police officers and didn't like the way they spoke to me or treated me. So 2 of those work streams there, I'm glad that they're included in it. The other 2 work streams are about making sure that the workforce of West Yorkshire Police is representative of the communities that we're being asked to police. So trying to make sure recruitment has all of the necessary parts built into it to make sure you're recruiting diverse workforces. And then last is the internal culture, again, just to make sure that the policies that are in place in policing in West Yorkshire mean that people aren't being driven out of the workplace. So, yeah.
I think one of the I guess, challenges for the black community is that they perceive there to be a lack of transparency within the police. So, I mean, you've touched on the fact that there's a lot of work being done. There's a lot of changes, whether they be minor, that are happening within the police force. But how is that shared with the black community so that they're aware of what's happening and what changes are occurring, and are able to be part of the evaluation process to say whether it's been effective or not?
So it's been 2 years, maybe 3 years now that some of the plans have started being rolled out. Will communities see those benefits straight away? No, it'll take a good few years before that culture change that needs to happen inside West Yorkshire Police has a chance to get embedded. There's going to be a massive difference in the way that officers are scrutinised by their own superiors. So I know in the past, racism, in my view, has been tolerated by senior officers, or at least a particular level. It's been ignored. So when we first started looking at West Yorkshire Police, we couldn't find any evidence that dismissals had happened if officers had been accused of racism. It just wasn't any archived evidence that that would happen. In the past 18 months, 5 officers have been dismissed for either racism or discriminatory behaviour. So it's not a massive difference, but if you look in your newspapers now, you'll see over the past 18 months, officers have been dismissed for what they've said or the way that they've acted when it comes to people from ethnic backgrounds like ours. But some of the statistics that they capture on whether it's use of force, the types of interactions that police officers have with members of the community that look like me is being scrutinised a lot more heavy, but it is captured as a separate element. So you can see in some of the DEI reports that they publish the number of people that have been stopped and searched, the number of black people who've been tasered. And before that would have just been appeared on a screen, it had just been captured and said, yes, of course we're going to taser more people from deprived backgrounds or people who are involved in crime. But what they've done now is taken a real deep dive into that and try and work out, is that just about criminality or is it about the bias that police officers have got, been sent to areas where black people are largely clustered together? Is it about officers stopping people in vehicles just because, you know, they're getting to the end of a shift and they've not stopped anybody for particular types of operation? Like Gemlock, which is it's data driven again, it's home office funded, but if it's not resulting in people being stopped, then it's not been a successful night on shift. And my worry was that because of that motivation, they were stopping black people disproportionately. Now seeing that that's now changed, there isn't that same acceptance that black areas are going to have higher levels of police interactions. That's not acceptable, and the data proves there is some change in that.
One of the key things is the involvement of the black community in shaping the race action plan, especially on a local level. What role can the black community play? Because there is a clear distrust between the community and the police force. What specific actions do you think the black community can take to get their voices really heard?
And I know it depends, not everyone's comfortable going to meetings, but West Yorkshire Police has got 5 different areas that all have scrutiny panels up and running on a regular basis. And that means observing video footage of police officers interacting with every background, but it will involve black community members being stopped by police officers as well. And if you're able to organise a Teams meeting or attend a Teams meeting, once you've filled in a few forms, you can scrutinise the work that the police are doing. You can talk about what you've seen on the body-worn videos. You can see what has happened in real life and give feedback to those police officers that are in your area. So it's giving you the advantage of being able to say to police officers, with the support of their senior leadership, whether you think they've done a good job or not. When I attend the meetings, I go to attend the ones for Leeds and Kirklees. Usually I'm the only black person there. A lot of other demographics turn up to these meetings. And as I said, I'm not daft enough to think it's everyone's preferred option from 6 o'clock till 8 o'clock on a Wednesday evening. But for 2 weeks out of, well, let's say it's about 4 weeks out of the year, four evenings out of the year, I'll sit and watch what officers have done and give my opinion on it. Anyone can do that. It's not just me. Anyone who's interested can contact their district police station and ask to become part of the advisory groups.
Okay. Now, we recognise this is a very complex and historical problem that has existed for decades and decades and decades, and obviously there have been quite significant challenges and barriers. Other than what you've briefly shared with us, how do you think some of these challenges can be addressed?
It's a good question again. So I'll go back to where I started. As a trade union rep, I knew that I was going to make friends and enemies in equal measure. you can't please all of the people. You can only try and influence those people that you can. It's going to be a 50-50 thing with the police work as well. Some people may look at me and say I'm too close to the police and I'm in the police's pocket, or I'm an informer. But the other side of that is if I don't get involved, if others don't get involved as well, the idea that teenagers are being harassed and criminalised by police officers, where alternatives were available to those police officers, just to be able to speak to people, then from that point of view, I'm happy to be in the position that I'm in. I've got two nephews, 9 and 12. One's just started high school. I want their first interaction with police officers to be like my own was, not like the second occasion that I came into contact with police officers where I was this close to having a criminal record, which would have changed my life immeasurably. I'd have been on a different path had I have had that criminal record as a 19-year-old. My hope is that a 19-year-old somewhere down the line, whether it's in Bradley, whether it's in Fartown, Crossland Moor, or Walpole, or Lockwood, or Dalton, is spoken to by a police officer and has a better outcome as a result of some of the work we've done in the background. So, yeah, you can't please all the people all the time, but I know with the appetite I've got for being involved now, it is having some influence, but not enough.
Well, I want to just commend you and thank you for the work you're doing in engaging with the West Yorkshire Police Force. It's important that dialogue happens, continues to happen, that we engage, no matter, in some cases, what our own personal opinions may be, or even our experiences. So thank you for all the work that you're doing behind the scenes, maybe that we don't necessarily see. Have you got anything that you'd like to share with the community in terms of encouraging them to be more engaged with the Police Race Action Plan to help to foster the change that I believe we're all looking for?
Well, it doesn't matter which part of West Yorkshire you live in. If you speak to the 101 service, if you ring or speak to any police officer, they will be able to point you towards ways of getting involved in the Police Race Action Plan, or indeed come email. I was going to put an email address on there, better not do that. But literally, there are ways of getting involved. There'll be plenty of publicity that's rolled out, especially in the schools over the next few months. There's going to be a real focus on trying to make sure that young people understand what their rights are when it comes to a stop and search. The fact that you don't have to give your name, unless you're arrested, you don't have to give a police officer your name. What really frustrates me is knowing that once you've given a police officer your name in a stop and search, it stays in the system. It doesn't come out, it doesn't disappear. You're then logged. You've got civil liberties, which mean you don't have to offer that information. The idea that you don't get taught that at school, that you don't get a good understanding of what the police powers allow them to do in schools, is something that we've been nagging the police to make sure we go into schools at high school levels and colleges to speak and do that community relation building, so that people understand what the police are allowed to do and what their rights are as citizens, and the expectations as well. The police are an evidence-led organisation. They can't work without information. And it doesn't help the black community if black criminals are out on the street for longer than they should be. I don't want my nephews influenced by drug dealers, gang members, or being involved in knife crime. So it's a two-pronged attack. We know we've got to work with young people. We know we've got to show them the right ways to go, but we've also got to make sure police officers aren't criminalising them for petty things or things that could be handled just by having a conversation with them. So lots of work to do, but I'm just doing my small part, and I'm happy to keep doing that until I can't do it anymore.
Okay. Well, I just want again to just say thank you for everything that you're doing. And thank you for being with us today and for sharing your insights and your experiences of working on the Police Race Action Plan, and all the success for the future.
It's been a pleasure. Thank you.
Mark's insights into the importance of community involvement, trust building, and actionable change highlight the critical role we all play in fostering a more equitable society. As we continue to navigate the complexities of racial dynamics within policing, it's essential for all community members to stay engaged and advocate for positive change. We hope today's discussion inspires you to be active participants in shaping a safer, more inclusive environment for everyone. So thank you for tuning in to Public Eye, and we look forward to bringing you more voices and stories that matter. Bye for now.